a name that once lit up the silver screen like a wildfire, charismatic, raw, untamed. From the gut-wrenching depths of a broken man in a desert bar to the high-octane chaos of swapping faces with a criminal, he carved a legacy as one of Hollywood's most daring souls. But behind the dazzling roles and that unforgettable grin, a storm was brewing, one that would test his heart, his spirit, and his will to rise again. Some flames burn so brightly they consume the one who carries them. He was born into a world where art and intellect collided, but peace was a stranger. Growing up in a California home, the air was thick with creativity, books stacked high, music humming, the faint scent of his mother's perfume lingering. His father, a scholar with a mind sharp as a blade, filled the house with ideas. His mother, a dancer whose grace masked a fragile heart, swayed between light and shadow. Their home was a canvas of beauty and tension, where laughter could turn to silence in a heartbeat. As a boy, he'd lie awake, listening for his mother's footsteps, only to hear the hum of a quiet so deep it felt alive. At 12, the world he knew cracked open. His parents' marriage collapsed, leaving a void where love once stood. The divorce wasn't loud, it was a slow unraveling, like a thread pulled from a tapestry. His father raised him with discipline, his mother a distant figure, her presence fading in and out like a ghost. Loneliness became his shadow, following him through the halls of a prestigious high school where whispers and mockery stung like knives. They called him privileged, unearned, so he built a shield, dark sunglasses, a leather jacket, a new name. He chose one that echoed rebellion and artistry, a nod to a composer who danced with chaos and a comic book hero who stood unbreakable. It wasn't just a name, it was a declaration of who he wanted to be. Acting became his refuge. At 15, he watched legends on screen, rebels and fighters who turned pain into power, and knew he'd found his calling. Every fracture from his childhood, every unspoken ache, became fuel for his craft. He didn't just want to perform, he wanted to transform, to give voice to the silences that haunted him. But the road to the spotlight was brutal. Hollywood didn't open its arms to dreamers, it chewed them up. He slept on floors, in cars, anywhere he could crash. Odd jobs paid for gas and hope. Nights were spent whispering lines to empty rooms, chasing a dream that felt just out of reach. Rejection was his constant companion. Small roles came and went, some cut before they ever saw light. Each one felt like a punch, but he kept swinging. He took jobs sweeping theater floors, the smell of popcorn clinging to his clothes, while he watched others live his dream. But pain, as always, was his teacher. He studied harder, auditioned relentlessly, turning every no into a reason to keep going. When a chance came to work with a legendary director, he took it not as a favor, but as a test he had to pass. He changed his name for good, shedding the weight of his past. To embody a character's agony, he pushed himself to extremes, pulling teeth, living in isolation, starving for truth. Hollywood called it madness. He called it honesty. If this story is stirring something in you, please share it. Let others feel the weight of a journey that refused to break. The boy who once hid from the world was now stepping into its glare. His breakout came in a love story that crackled with raw energy, a performance that made audiences lean forward in their seats. The world saw him not just his name, but his fire. Fame followed, fast and unforgiving. Blockbusters rolled in, each one bigger than the last, his name glowing on marquees from coast to coast. Millions poured into his accounts. The kid who once slept in a car was now a king, commanding $20 million a film. But every crown comes with thorns. The higher he climbed, the heavier the weight. He bought castles, islands, cars that roared like his ambition. A Gothic mansion whispered of ghosts, a private island shimmered under starlight. Rare artifacts filled his shelves like pieces of a puzzle he couldn't solve. It was breathtaking, poetic, and reckless, a man trying to outrun his own heart. But the world doesn't let you run forever. In 2008, the economy crashed, and his empire crumbled. Debts piled up, taxes loomed like vultures. The IRS claimed millions. One by one, his treasures vanished, sold, auctioned, gone. The castle stood empty, the island silent. He stood in the wreckage, watching his reflection fracture in a broken mirror. The tabloids pounced, calling it a fall from grace. But it didn't break. "I got myself into this," he said quietly, "and I'll get myself out." Bankruptcy wasn't an option. He worked feverishly, relentlessly. 4 films a year, sometimes 5. Big budgets, small indies, anything that paid. He filmed through exhaustion, memorizing lines in dusty motels, driving through deserts to make the next call time. The world mocked him, turned him into a punchline, but he didn't flinch. "Pain teaches you what applause can't," he said. "It shows you who you are when the lights go out." Slowly, the tide turned. Directors saw not a has-been, but a man who'd walked through fire and still burned bright. Smaller films became his canvas, each role a rebellion against failure. A chef grieving in silence, a man haunted by dreams. Each performance carried a truth only survivors know. He didn't curse the fall, he called it a gift. "I had to lose everything," he reflected, "to find what mattered." The storm hadn't destroyed him, it had carved a path to something real. Love, though, was a different battlefield. His heart was a map of scars, each one a story of passion too fierce to hold. In the late 80s, he met a woman whose laugh could quiet a city. They built a home filled with coffee and dreams, their son a light that made the world feel small. But fame pulled him away. Set scripts, endless nights apart. Love faded into voicemails, then silence. The split was gentle, but it left an ache he still carries. He drives past their old haunts sometimes, her laughter echoing in his memory, a reminder that love doesn't always last, but it always teaches. Then came a romance that felt like fate. She was calm, steady, a woman who saw the man, not the myth. He proposed under candlelight, the world holding its breath. But just before the wedding, an old flame reappeared, a love he'd chased for years, wild and untamed. The choice tore him apart. He followed his heart, but it cost him peace. That marriage burned bright and fast, a collision of two souls, too electric to last. 6 years on paper, but only moments together. When it ended, they parted with grace. Two storms that couldn't share the same sky. Another love came, carrying a legacy as heavy as his own. She was the daughter of a legend, her eyes holding the same loneliness he knew too well. Their wedding was a spectacle, but the cracks showed fast. One night, in a moment of grief, he threw his ring into a river, a $65,000 promise sinking into the dark. Divers searched, but it was gone. So was the marriage. 109 days of fire and regret. "Some things," he said, "aren't meant to be found." Years later, love found him again, quietly, in a sushi bar. She was young, kind, steadier, waitress who saw past the headlines. They married, built a simple life, had a son named after a hero. For 12 years, she was his anchor, standing by him as his fortune crumbled, as the world turned away. But even anchors can slip. They drifted apart, not with anger, but with time. "She was my best friend," he said. "She saved me when I needed it most." The years that followed were heavy with solitude. In a haze of neon and whiskey, he married a Gina, reckless choice that lasted for days. The world laughed, but he saw it for what it was, a cry from a tired heart. "I was running from myself," he admitted, "and I finally stopped." If this story of resilience moves you, share it. Let it remind someone that even the deepest falls can lead to new beginnings. In 2020, at 56, he stood at a crossroads. He'd lived a dozen lives: king, outcast, lover, survivor. Then, in a quiet gallery halfway across the world, he met her, a soft-spoken artist, her presence like a still lake after a storm. They started as friends, sharing silences that felt like home. No cameras, no chaos, just two people finding beauty in the ordinary. In 2021, they married in a small ceremony, the date chosen to honor his late father. "It felt like he was there," he said, voice soft with wonder. Their daughter arrived in 2022, her name a bridge between past and future. Fatherhood, at nearly 60, became his quiet miracle. He wakes early now, cooking breakfast, reading stories, watching her chase sunlight across the floor. His wife, his calm, laughs with him over simple dinners. "She's my peace," he says. "After all the noise, she's my home." Today, at 61, he lives far from the spotlight's glare. His Malibu home faces the ocean, glass walls reflecting waves and time. His fortune, once $150 million, was lost to taxes and excess, but he rebuilt it. $25 million earned through grit, not glory. He paid every debt, refused to break. A handful of cars, a modest watch, a wedding band, he jokes, finally stayed put. These are his treasures now. He donates quietly, millions to children, to oceans, to those who need it most. "Giving," he says, "is how I make amends." His days are simple: coffee at dawn, roses in the garden, jazz at dusk. He works when he chooses, picking roles that speak to truth, not fame. He's not chasing the past anymore. He's building a future. The storm didn't break me, he reflects. It showed me who I am. His story isn't about fame or fortune. It's about a man who fell, loved, lost, and rose again, not to conquer, but to find peace. If his journey inspires you, share this story. Subscribe to hear more tales of resilience and redemption, and may you find your art